Hello, and welcome to a Property Assessment Review Panel hearing. During the course of this video, you will view an entire Property Assessment Review Panel, or PARP hearing, from the moment you arrive at the venue, where the hearing will take place, through to when the panel informs you of its decision and next steps. A typical hearing of a residential property lasts approximately 30 minutes. This process applies to an in-person hearing. If you had chosen to have your hearing by written submission, the panel would review evidence provided in the written submissions without the requirement of you attending in person. In selected areas of the province, a conference call option is available as a pilot project at this time. A notice of hearing was sent to you, and you have contacted BC Assessment to book a time for your property assessment complaint to be heard. As it is almost your scheduled hearing time, let's enter the room and get ready.
Good morning. Please have a seat over here. I'd like to call the meeting to order and convene the session of the Property Assessment Review Panel. According to our daily outline, the next item on the list is Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Would that be you?
That would be us.
Yep. Thank you for identifying yourself. Please make yourself comfortable. I see you've already found the right table. Representing BC Assessment today is Mr. Matt Andrews. On the table over here, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you may have met him or had some previous discussions with him. He is in no way associated with the panel and is here today to provide evidence in defense of the property assessment process. My name is Greg Bunyan and I'm chair of the panel today. The other panel members are Mr. Gibb Small on my right and Ms. Rita Parikh on my left. It's important that you know that we are independent members of the community who have been hired by the ministerial order to independently sit and review of the property assessment complaints. We're not affiliated with BC Assessment in any way, or any local tax authority, and or any local government. And as you know, Mrs. Jones, that we're not have no affiliation with you as either. As the complaint process the onus is on you to provide evidence and show us why you believe that the assessed value for your property is not correct. Therefore, unless we come to some other agreement, you will be asked to present first. First, I'll ask Mr. Andrews, on behalf of BC Assessment Authority, do you have a recommendation today?
No recommendation at this time.
Thank you. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, shortly we'll be asking you to present your evidence, but I'd like to walk through quickly what the process will be today. In the interest of keeping a schedule, I'll be asking you to limit your presentation to approximately 8 to 10 minutes. We are a little flexible, but it should be in that area. At the conclusion of your presentation, the panel members and Mr. Andrews may have some questions or clarifications that are required. Then the assessor will make his presentation, which again will take approximately 8 or 10 minutes. There will be an opportunity for the two of you to ask questions or clarifications, as will the panel members. Unless there's been some agreement amongst you at that time, in other words, the assessor may agree with your interpretation and provide a recommendation, then the panel will leave the room, or we will ask you to leave the room so the panel can deliberate and make a decision. In any event, it's our intention to provide you with a decision today so that you know what we have discussed. You will receive official notice of our decision by April 7th in the mail. If you're satisfied with it, there's nothing else you have to do. If you're not satisfied with it, there's another opportunity for you to appeal our decision to the Property Assessment Appeal Board. Please note that this must be done by April 30th of this year. Okay? So on the basis of that, if you're ready, please proceed as the complainants. We're looking for you to start.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll hand out these. Made photocopies for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
You're welcome. So what we did was we went and talked to the real estate office and got 3 sales in our neighborhood in the summer. And if you can turn to page 1, that's sale number 1. And that house sold in July for $380,000. It's 300 square feet larger than ours. It's got better quality kitchen and bathroom, and the lot is slightly larger. So that one sold for $380 in July. So I believe it's slightly better than our house. Sale number 2, the next page. That house is located 2 blocks away from ours. It sold in May for $370,000. It's very similar in quality to our house. It's 1 year older, and the lot is the same size lot as ours. And I think that this is the house that's our best comparable, and it sold for $370,000.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that one, because we've been inside that house because there was an open house. And sale number 3, that house is really similar to ours because it's the same builder built that house. It's 1 year newer than ours. It has the 3-car garage, not a 2-car garage like ours. And that one went for $375,000 in June. So based on these 3 sales, I think our assessment should be at $370,000, not like the $417,000 that Matt thinks it should be at, right?
Absolutely, and I don't know where he got his information from, but you know, we live in the neighborhood, and these are the ones that we think they should be compared to.
So thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, for your evidence. Panel members, Mr. Small and Ms. Parikh, any questions of the appellants today?
Yes, if I may. I'm interested in knowing about what kind of upgrades you might have invested in the last few years.
Well, we haven't really done anything. We haven't, it's the same as it was when we bought it.
Okay. And you mentioned that your house is similar in quality to the second comparable. What about the other comparables?
Well, sale number 3 was built by the same builder, and he put this, it's basically the same quality fixtures as ours. It's just that it's 1 year difference in age.
And the garage, of course.
Thank you. Mr. Small?
I don't believe I have any questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anders. Any questions of the appellants today?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, I would like to ask you, please, Mr. Anders, to present on behalf of BC Assessment Authority in defending the value of the authority as presented for this particular property.
Sure. So I do have some sales information here that I'd like to share. So before I get into the subject property, what I would like to do is just bring attention to the 3 sales that Mr. and Mrs. Jones referred to just a few minutes ago. There is a significant difference between these 3 sales and the sales that I've presented to you as well. BC Assessment categorizes various homes in different ways, and there is a fairly substantial difference between the properties that were presented by Mr. and Mrs. Jones and the ones that I presented to you. The properties that were presented by Mr. and Mrs. Jones are categorized in our system as 1-story homes on basements, whereas Mr. and Mrs. Jones, their home is considered to be a 2-story home on crawl space. So the thing to consider bringing this up is that they are different types of homes, and as a result, they are classified differently because they do react differently in the market. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is to go through the subject property, and then I'll go through the 4 sales that I have. The subject property is located at 3400 Main Street. The assessed value is $417,000. It is a single-family dwelling on a lot of 3,223 square feet. It is a 2-story home built in 2007. The total area is 1,845 square feet on crawl space, and it does have a 2-car garage. Comparable number 1, 3388 Main Street, sold September 14th for $434,000 with an assessment to sales ratio of 0.96. This home is a single-family dwelling on a lot of 3,311 square feet. This property is also a 2-story home built in 2007, is considered very similar to the subject property with a total area of 1,843 square feet on crawl space with a 2-car garage. Comparable number 2, 3425 Main Street, sold August 24th for $420,000 with an assessment to sales ratio of 1.01. This home is a single-family dwelling also on a larger lot, slightly larger lot of 4,300 square feet. A 2-story home built in 2006. It is slightly inferior in size at 1,717 square feet on crawl space, also with a 2-car garage. Moving on to comparable number 3, 3416 Main Street, sold August 10th. For $417,000 with an assessment to sales ratio of 1. This home is a single-family dwelling on a lot of 3,267 square feet. It is a 2-story home built in 2007, similar in size to the subject of 1,813 square feet on crawl space, also with a 2-car garage. And lastly, comparable number 4, 3410 Main Street, sold March 28th for $412,000 with an assessment to sales ratio of 0.99. This is also a single-family dwelling on a lot of approximately 3,200 square feet, similar to the subject property. Also a 2-story home built in 2007, inferior slightly in square footage, 1,663 square feet on crawl space. Also with a 2-car garage. So if you turn to page 2, I've presented a map that shows the subject property in red and the relative locations of the comparable properties as well, all very close to the subject property. The next page is an aerial ortho photo of the subject, and lastly, a picture of the home. Also, what I have here as well, and unfortunately I've only made 1 copy of each, but I'd be happy to share these around. I do have the MLS listings from the comparables presented.
Thank you.
These are all different homes, aren't they? Yes.
They're the different homes, yes. So after careful review of the sales activity and the comparables used, the properties, generally speaking, are considered to be similar to the subject property. The range of value on the low end is $412,000 for comparable number 4, to the high end of $434,000, comparable number 1. The subject property, which is, in my mind, most comparable to properties number 1 and 2, is valued at $417,000, which is in the range of value. So at this point, I'd like to request that the panel please confirm the value of $417,000.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Mr. Small or Ms. Parikh, questions of Mr. Andrews?
Yeah, through the chair. Mr. Andrews, 2 questions for you.
Sure.
First one, I see that the sale dates for these comparables are all some distance away from the July 1st assessment value date. Can you comment on whether or not there was sufficient market fluctuation to allow there to be adjustments made to the actual sale date to refer back to the July 1st date?
Absolutely. So to clarify, BC Assessment uses a valuation date of July the 1st. These comparables sold in September, August, and March. I did do an analysis for time and found that from March through September, sort of bracketing the valuation date of July the 1st, no time adjustment was necessary.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, in your records, do you happen to have the value that the house sold for originally? I believe it was only 4 years ago.
I do. The home sold March 28th, 2008 for $414,255. Note that in March 2008, the market was suffering and things have improved since then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Ms. Parikh, questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Jones, questions of the assessor?
Yes, Mr. Andrews, I don't quite know what you mean when you're talking about 1-story on basement versus 2-story on crawl. When we gave you our comparisons, to the best of our ability, they were the same as our home. And as far as we are aware, our sales numbers 1, 2, and 3 were all 2-story on crawl. And so we would ask that the panel please
accept our comparables as similar to our house.
and about the
And we think that Matt has given you sales comparisons that are superior quality to our house, and I don't think Matt has made any adjustments to those sales compared to our house. I think they're quite a bit more superior. And he hasn't used the lower selling houses in our neighborhood. He's gone for the higher priced ones in our neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Do you wish to respond to that?
Sure, I can add a comment. So to clarify with regards to 1-story homes on basement versus 2-story homes on crawl, similar to the subject, the way BC Assessment inventories these properties is the main living area, which includes the kitchen typically, is considered the first floor. In Mr. and Mrs. Jones' case, the first floor is the entry-level floor, the main floor, with bedrooms and bathrooms above, the second story, on crawl space below. The significant difference with the comparables that they presented is when you enter those homes, the kitchen and main living area is on the top floor, which is considered to be the main level. The basement level is below that, which holds typically the bedrooms and bathrooms. That's the main distinction between the two types of homes. As a result, BC Assessment categorizes them differently because they do react differently in the marketplace.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Andrews from the Assessment Authority, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. We appreciate the evidence of both of you today. The panel will now take you a few minutes to deliberate. Time is and space is tight in this particular environment. If you would please depart from the room so the panel can take a few moments to come to a decision.
And you will call us.
We will call you back. You just mind waiting outside. It shouldn't be very long. Outside the doors for a few moments, and we will call you back shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When preparing for your property assessment review panel hearing, it's important to remember that the burden of proof rests with the complainant. What this means is that the person filing the property assessment complaint must provide the panel with evidence supporting their reasons why the assessment is incorrect. Telling the panel your assessment is too high, too low, or just wrong isn't enough. To make your case, you need to provide the panel with information that compares your home to others in your area. If your complaint is that your assessment is too high, providing examples of homes similar to yours with assessments lower than yours may establish that your assessment is incorrect. Sales evidence of similar homes is also good supporting evidence. Photographs of your home and property are always helpful, as they will show the state and condition of your property to the panel. Photographs of other similar properties can help provide context for the panel. Maps, photographs, and sales information are considered to be good evidence in support of your arguments. The best sales and market evidence are sales close to the valuation date of July 1st. Please note, the Property Assessment Review Panel has no jurisdiction over tax rates or your property taxes. A typical Property Assessment Review Panel hearing is approximately 30 minutes in length. Hearings are scheduled throughout the day, and panels try their best to keep the schedule to avoid having you or others wait. You will be provided with 6 to 8 minutes to present your evidence to the panel, and you're encouraged to provide the panel with your best 3 examples that support your position and request for a revised assessment, classification, or application of exemption. The same amount of time will be provided to BC Assessment for their presentation. The panel will provide a fair and impartial hearing in the most efficient and effective manner possible within the time allotted for each hearing. When arriving for your property assessment hearing, you may find members of the public seated in the hearing room. These individuals could be completing their hearing, waiting for their hearing time to be called, or just observing a hearing to learn about the property assessment process. Provincial legislation sets out that all hearings of a property assessment review panel are open to the public.
Thank you, and welcome back to the hearing. We'll reconvene the hearing now. I'm sorry that you had to step out for a few minutes, but we appreciate you waiting outside for us. The panel has deliberated and taken into account both of your presentations. Thank you very much. And Mr. Small will indicate our decision.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The decision of the panel was based on the evidence that was presented in front of us. And there was no evidence to show that there was any dispute as to the value of the land itself. And most of the evidence that was presented was to deal with the valuation of the building that was on the property. So we'll deal mostly with that. I think one of the large concerns was the difference between the valuation of a 2-story house versus a 1-story house with basement. And from the evidence in front of us, it is clear that there is quite a difference in the valuation between those. To follow that up, I actually took the valuation that you had requested of $370,000, and I subtracted the land value and came up with a value of $166,000 for the building. Divided by the square foot, that only gives a value of $90 per square foot of assessed value for the property that we're viewing today. Compared to all 4 of the other comparables provided by the assessor at $235 a square foot, $244, $230, and $247. So there's a substantial difference that is very difficult for us to try and make a change on. It's not like we're $5 or $10 a square foot difference. There's a substantial difference there. And without any other evidence, we can only state that that's as a result of the classification differences between the 2 houses. You also made reference to the fact that you felt that your house was of a lower quality than the other houses that were being assessed. But unfortunately, there was no evidence presented to us, no photographs of your house showing ordinary countertops versus granite countertops or large chandeliers or anything else like that. And an ordinary statement like that, it's very difficult for us to quantitate that and provide a value to it. So for those reasons, it is the decision of this panel to confirm the assessed value of the property. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you for your presentations. As Mr. Small has indicated, that we will be confirming the role, and the assessed value will not be changing on our records or the records for by the BC Assessment Authority. Just a reminder to you, as I said at the beginning, that you'll receive official notification for this by April the 7th, and there's an opportunity to appeal to the Property Assessment Appeal Board should you want to by April 30th. Thank you, and this concludes the hearing.